thank you everyone for spending a few minutes waiting to get in to this webinar. My name is Stephen Kinsella. Very, very excited to have you here, and we will get straight in and we'll replay the last few minutes for you again. The purpose of this webinar is to talk to you about your portfolio, and we really wanted to give you a sense of how to apply, what's a good project, what you do to take you through the steps, literally step by step here. So I've got my colleagues, Professor Tiziana Margherita, Dr. Ian O'Keefe. We've got JJ Collins, all from the ISE staff, and then we have Barry Lunn from Provisio and Rob Heaton from Stripe here to talk to you today. So what we're going to do is very quickly redo the last few minutes and get on. So thank you very much for your patience, and you can blame The Economist for the lack of getting the tech right. So with that, please, Professor Tiziana Margherita for the second time.
Thank you, Stephen, and I will try to not speak too fast. Okay, not accelerate that way. So you saw already on the previous slide, actually our first cohort of ISE student, the 25 that we took in last year. That's the class of 2026. And we are showing you here a little bit of the space in which we are immersed. It is an immersive software engineering course, because we have actually 9 to 5, 6 days, 5 days a week, but then you still have to do a little bit of work on your own. We have basically you in a studio environment, which looks like a combination of a startup and a futuristic space. If you come and join, you're basically learning by doing. You're learning in studios, working on projects. It's not a traditional lecture hall. The space is completely reconfigurable. It is green. It is beautiful. It is inspiring. Okay. You never take end of term exams, high stake exams, because we are actually calibrating continuous assessment all over the time that you are spending with us. One of the key features is that you get a master's qualification in 4 years. So it is not just immersive, it is also accelerated. It is very fast, but it is important in particular in times of downturns, etc., to have a really high qualification and to be ahead of the pack. Okay, so we are trying actually to do our best to get all the students to a master qualification within 4 years. There is also an option to exit after 3 years with a bachelor honors, but definitely the course is conceived for the cycle of the 4 years. And during these 4 years, you're not just sitting in our fantastic space and learning from the teaching staff that we have, from AWS fellows and from several guest lecturers from industry and academia, but also half of your time is spent joining companies and basically being immediately after the first year a worthy team member in real development environments. Okay. Of course, we hope that you're not just going to become an employee, but also to become a founder yourself. And we have many examples of this in our group. In the next slide, you see, again, a couple of impressions of what is happening. You're not just learning coding, you're also learning professional preparedness, which is very, very important in order to mature you, to let you grow as a person and as a professional, okay? And here there was Professor Barry Floyd from California State Polytechnic University that joined actually for the first 3 months, accompanying our students in this trip from the first day to actually successful residency interview that have just terminated a couple of days ago. And I was mentioning entrepreneurs. We have one here immediately after me. It is Barry Lunn from Provisio, and I hand over to him.
Thank you again, Tiziana. Appreciate it. So yeah, hey guys. I'm Barry Lunn. I'm the founder and CEO of Provisio. We're basically a vehicle technology company using AI and sensors to solve the driving problem, i.e. why we crash every day, and eventually to remove the driver completely with safe autonomy. That's what we do and think about on a day-to-day basis. I guess we're also ISE partners and really excited about the course and involved because we really believe in this and believe this is how we create the people of the future that could maybe come and work at our organization selfishly, but also the people that might start organizations like ours as well. I think a lot of us that are partners in this look at this course as being, I wish that was around when I was ready to study, and that's how I think about this course. I'm here in the Future Mobility Campus in Shannon, and we are getting ready to welcome some of that cohort you just saw. We'll have 2 of those joining us soon on their internship here with us, which should be pretty cool. But look, we're here to talk about portfolios, and aside from all that in the day-to-day job, I'm a portfolio zealot. To the point where my own poor kids have had portfolios since they could start to make art, and they prune those on a yearly basis. And so I suppose I would like you to start thinking about a portfolio not as being something that you have to do to get into this course and to get to that angle, but actually to start thinking of a portfolio as it's going to travel with you through this course and through life, right? And it's really about creating, because we are not, and especially anyone that wants to get on this course, is not a boring 2-dimensional being, right? That can be represented in a CV or filling out an application form. We're 3-dimensional, right? And so that's what your portfolio is all about. It's all about what have you done, and show me what you have done, right? And that's great, because that cuts out an awful lot of the stuff that people can learn, and people can, can prepare for interviews, or they can be, coached or whatever else. But when it comes to, what have you built? Show me what you've built. That's really, really important. So on the slide in front of me, you just, it's a black and white slide, right? And that to me is what a CV is, right? Or a job application that we get in on a day-to-day basis into our organization. But how do you stand out? And to put that in perspective, just the world you're going into, right? AI and machine learning are becoming really exciting fields. We in Provisio put a job up on our website a couple of weeks ago, and we take it down after 2 days for an AI ML engineer. And the reason was we got like 350 applicants in 2 days for that job. We're a small organization, and that's the kind of intensity of that. So, how do you stand out? And so if we, this is the portfolio, right? It's a 3-dimensional view of you. It's about what you do, what you can build, how you show your personality. It's how, that's where I would think about that. So I've had a portfolio since I was about 15. I was a late starter compared to my kids, because I didn't have a dad who was a portfolio zealot, but they do, unfortunately. And today, that's my portfolio, the vehicle you can see over my shoulder, right? That's what I've done. That's what goes in my portfolio today. I turn up, I drive my portfolio to your door, and I show it to you and say, hey, work with me. But if you look at the next slide, this is what's really important. Those 350 job applications come in. Who are we in the organization? And my teammates are interested in building stuff. They're interested in getting out in vehicles, building, showing what they can do to the world. Whose are they going to see in this sea of black and white? Of course, it's going to be your 3D view of the world, and that's going to burst off the page. And I think that's how you have to start to think about this portfolio. It's what's going to separate you from everyone going forward. Throughout ISE, you'll be given the tools to develop that, to hone it. Don't overthink it. It start with rubbish. That's how I do. Just start with something. Open your portfolio, you put something into it, and then improve it as you go along and get that process going. So look, I'm going to leave it there. Happy to take any questions you guys might have afterwards. Cheers.
Thanks, Barry. That's a very compelling argument for the portfolio. So my name is JJ Collins, a lecturer here at the University of Limerick. And just to introduce the portfolio concept, we have 2 questions. Question 1, we allow 1,000 words for you to answer. It is to tell us about how you've used technology in a creative way to solve a problem. Just to draw your attention, that content created for another Leaving Cert submission, for example, the computer science or engineering, just to pick 2 of those, we're very familiar with the specs there for the classroom-based assessments that are part of fulfillment for those. So you cannot resubmit work unless you can clearly demonstrate that you've added significant value on your own to that. So you have to demonstrate clear novelty. Evidence could be in the form of screenshots, design artifacts, data, visualization of Git commits, etc. Also in the 1000 words, you could have links to repositories. Could be a Git repo, for example, if coding is part of the solution. We'll have more deeper dive into question 1 shortly. Question 2 is 500 words, and it's to tell us about achievement that you were proud of, and this to demonstrate excellence across a number of different domains. And if you've done that, you're likely to bring that particular mindset and work ethic into ISE. So the purpose of the portfolio is to signal to us your interest in ISE, your aptitude for the course, your ability to engage and contribute to the teaching and learning environment. Barry mentioned there a few key concepts to keep in mind when starting out. The first is KISS, keep it simple, silly. Just small steps when you're starting off, and just focus on what you're going to do for the next few days. When starting out, if you're looking at the big picture of I have an idea for a portfolio, it looks like a huge ask and it's daunting. Just small focused steps on a problem or opportunity that is meaningful to you. Therefore, you're more likely to engage with it, more interested in it, and deliver a better product at the end of the day. Depth, not breadth. Instead of thinking about, I'm going to design a portfolio that has lots of features, full of bells and whistles, etc., and flashing lights, just one feature and do it really well. Avoid paralysis by analysis. This is where you overthink it. Get started straight away, small steps. And examples in question 2 do not have to leverage ICT, and more about that later. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Rob from Stripe.
Hi, my name is Rob. I work at Stripe as a software engineer, and I've been helping out design the ISE course to make sure it focuses on the things that I use every day and that I'm looking for when interviewing candidates. So question 1 for the portfolio, as JJ said, is tell us about the most creative, interesting, or enjoyable way in which you've used technology. Can we have the next slide? Thanks. And as you can see, that's deliberately worded very broadly. So it doesn't have to be, and I'm sure most submissions will not be writing some code to build a website or an application or something like that. We can take a very broad view of the word technology because it comes in many forms. So it could be using technology to make music, measure something from a sports game, something that you built in a sort of something you might not consider coding, or something like Minecraft. Next slide, please. So let's look at some examples of things that you might want to submit to help you figure it out and to give you some inspiration. So we'll look at what you did, where you did it, and then why as well. So for what you did, for example, it could be, as I say, it could just be a computer program, the type of software engineering that you'll do on the course. But if that's not something you've done before, that is completely fine. As I said, we're taking an expansive view of what technology is. So it could be a piece of art or music that you produced using technology, or it could be another type of computer program, a smartphone app, or a smart home system that you installed and customized. Next slide, please. Or something like an electronics project, or a data analysis, or a website, or shop, or forum, or just something else entirely. As I said, as long as it's technology that we're interested in it. So for where you did it, it could be something that you've already done, that you've already worked on a lot, or something that you're thinking about working on in the future. So maybe you did it working at some sort of work experience placement. Maybe you did it just at home for fun. It was something you were just purely interested in on your own. Maybe you did it at a club, maybe you did it with friends. Go to the next slide, please. Thanks. And then, or maybe you did it as part of a competition. So like any of these ones listed here, or one of these programs listed here, like F1, Team Turns, etc. Again, somewhere else entirely, something that we haven't even thought of. And then finally, some examples of why you did it. So this could be, so what were you trying to achieve? You could have been trying to analyze language, analyze diet or nutrition, understand sports, understand a science experiment. It could have just been for fun. You just thought this would be kind of cool. I'm gonna give it a go. You could have been modding a computer game, helping a business, starting a business or a charity, designing some art or fashion, or again, just something we haven't thought of. These are just ideas. So some good projects will have a couple of different properties. So it might be something where you encountered problems along the way that you overcome or adapted in order to solve. hopefully it'll be a big, complex project. As JJ mentioned earlier, going deep rather than broad will provide the most interesting things to write about. And a unique project where you added some specific novelty is particularly interesting to us. And then some way where you had several alternative ways of solving the problem, and you had to choose one. It was not at all obvious what you should do when you started. Perhaps you automated something, and that's interesting. Or maybe the project was used by other people, allowing you to demonstrate that it was useful and that you adapted it based on feedback. It doesn't have to have been used by other people though. And also just you learned something new, something you didn't know before you figured out this is something I need to learn, and you went with that. So those are some of the things you might like to write about, but then what does that actually mean when you come to write down your 1,000 words? How should you present it? So I'd suggest that you choose some number of the following questions, or come up with your own, and don't answer all of them. There's 1,000 words is not very many, and just choose the angles on your project that you think are the most interesting. So we'll need an overview of what you did, and just a clear, succinct summary of what it was you actually did. And then again, remember, these are all optional. You do not need to answer all of these. You might talk about why you did it. Was it a problem you were solving, or just something for fun? Was there an impact of it? Again, it's fine if there wasn't, but did anyone use it? Did it help them? And then what aspects are you most proud of? If you think that a part of it is the best, don't just hope that we'll realize and acknowledge it. Just tell us why this is the bit I'm most proud of, and this part is the best. Next slide, please. Thanks. And then, so another angle you could look at are the challenges, because things don't work the first time, and often they don't even work the 5th time. So did you get feedback from people who used your work? And then how did you change your plans based on this? And then what's the biggest challenge that you encountered, and why? And how did you overcome it? You might want to talk about things you learned. So what did you learn during your project? And based on that, what would you do differently next time? Because there'll certainly be many things that you did. So that's all I have to say about question 1. So I'm going to hand over to JJ for some examples. I think you're muted, JJ.
Murphy's Law at play tonight. So thank you, Rob. Just to note again, the portfolio is 300 points, and the specification is very different compared to the Leaving Cert projects, for example, in computer science, engineering, technical graphics, etc. It's rather loose compared to those specs, and this is deliberately so we want you to stand back, interpret the spec in a way that is meaningful for you. Be able to, 1,000 words isn't very much when you want to describe a significant piece of work. So we're asking you there to be able to do abstraction, identify what's really important, and communicate it precisely and concisely. I'll give a few examples. So one of the more commonly occurring submissions is based around a website. But just to remember, focus on creativity. What is the value for the end users, stakeholders, which could be you or others, either family members, people in your community? Describe the process of building the website, going from what were the requirements, some aspects of the design, implementation, how did you test it, and then evaluation and reflections. How is it received by stakeholders? Web 1.0 versus 2.0, where there are opportunities to make it a little more interactive than just a static set of pages. Where can I find examples that if I'm just starting out, examples that might motivate me, give me some inspiration? You can look at TEX, which is a competition and mentoring provided by ISE, and go to the TEX website, BT Young Scientist, and a whole host of other competitions that apply at second level, and just browse the catalogue. Some website examples briefly. The first one there, Raspberry Pi powered internet connector pill dispenser, that was also connected to a website that was able to provide a dashboard and visualizations of the medication are taken by the patient. Cara, an approach to stop bullying, again a website that helps teenagers to get advice on how to tackle bullying if they don't have anyone to talk to. Is technology the way forward for education? In that case, we did a submission where it set up a junior cert website in order to help students, but more importantly, had a protocol to investigate whether their grades have improved or disproved, etc. So those are examples. The technology one could use for developing websites, it could be a WordPress. Start off with that, then more complicated frameworks such as Drupal. And the third point is you can make it yourself by coding it, testing and deploying. The original in ISE website was originally in WordPress, but we've gone on then to make it yourself. So by make it yourself, then a number of things to consider. The front end or the user interface could be HTML and CSS. I would, if grading the portfolios and it's a website submission, I would like to see a little bit of JavaScript in there. And for those of you who've been programming for a while, maybe to look at something like React, Angular, etc. Don't forget the design process. UI prototypes on the right there, we have an example of a wireframe. It doesn't have to be anything as fancy as that. Feel free to sketch or draft on pen and paper, but it's token acknowledgement of the role of the design in the process. Think about the graphics, the aesthetics, usability. If you have a poor front-end user interface, then you're not going to have any traction with your user community. So next, for some of you who probably have some coding experience already. When it comes to making yourself, you're thinking about a web architecture, which is typically the front end, which is a browser, sorry, on the left, the users, then the front end, a browser, Chrome, Firefox, etc. And at the back end, then we have the web server that has the web pages connecting to either a file system or a database. You might consider some aspects of this. So if we go on to the next. So on the server side of the back office, effectively what we've deployed, we have a web server running that's returning web pages. Some information could be stored in a database, or it might be just a file system in which we have images. We could be using scripting languages such as PHP. That's a relatively straightforward one compared to the family of scripting languages in order to connect to the database, etc. I get frequently asked, what about frameworks such as we have there PHP, the Laravel framework, Python, Django, or Fast API, Angular, Spring Boot for Java, etc. Those are just a few of the frameworks that do a lot of the heavy lifting with respect to coding. They're definitely not necessary. If you're starting out on the portfolio now and you have a website in mind and you don't have the time for that. So with that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Ian O'Keefe, and he's going to give you a few more examples.
Thank you very much, JJ. Hi, my name's Ian, and I'm part of the ISE team here in UL. We've had many people asking us if coding is a requirement for the portfolio, but there are many other technology areas you can present that demonstrate the capabilities we're looking for in ISE, such as video content that you recorded or edited, data analysis that you performed, say using spreadsheets, or a piece of art and music that you produced using computer programs. We don't want to be, sorry, could go back a slide please there. Thanks. We don't want to be too prescriptive on the details of what we're looking for, as this is your opportunity to express your uniqueness, your technical abilities, your innovation, and how you can combine these to solve a problem. It's a bit like someone telling you to be spontaneous. You can't force it. So we want you all to explore all the things that you really enjoy doing, see if any of them have a technology aspect to it, and pick the one you feel best showcase your own unique qualities that make you a great fit for the ISE program. Go to the next slide now, please. So firstly, we look at an example of focusing on, say, creating, performing, and producing a piece of music. And if you want to kind of expand it better for your portfolio, you should think about things like breaking the story into parts. That can be helpful. So perhaps thinking about the creative ideas you had. What is the piece about? Who's it for? What genre will it be in? What's your instrumentation? Gathering inspiration, perhaps being inspired by other artists or genres. Then detail the process you followed. How you planned everything. Writing a piece of music, working up from a riff, using samples or loops, playing the guitar or the piano, maybe using MIDI, whatever has worked best for you. Explain the tools that you used, how you decided which ones to use, and even what instruments you selected. Next slide, please. And you should expand also on your technical skills, how you use the technology to record the music. Your performance abilities, recording skills, things like microphone placement, overdubbing, managing multiple takes. Also share how you use the technology tools and applications to produce the final mix. Think about audio editing, importing audio, automation, embedding any digital content or loops or samples, maybe the use of effects plugins, mixing, mastering, compression, how you completed a professional final mix. Did you share the finished recording? Maybe describe how you did this. Thanks. And another massive growth area recently is the explosion of YouTube content, across the web. The process of creating, editing, and producing a video such as this, it's a potential idea for a submission. As before, it's a great idea to explain the steps you followed, so we understand not just what you did, but why you made those decisions. Think of creativity. What is the purpose of the video? What audience is it for? Is it for YouTube or TikTok? Is it a music video, documentary? Could be a comedy sketch. Is it animated, or is it live, real life? The process. How did you plan the video? Did you write a script or a storyboard? Did you have a shot list? Did you need to recruit actors? How was that interpersonal experience if you did? Tools. How did you shoot and edit the video? What cameras, if you use more than one, did you use? Microphones, lighting, what editing software? Was this done on your phone or maybe on a laptop? Also, thanks. Focus in on the technology. Video editing, gathering the video clips, maybe having to convert formats to import into your video editing software, looking at transitions, effects, cuts, editing, rendering. Formats, what quality is required? Like what formats to use to share the content? Did you use compression? What aspect ratio did you use for the video? And I hope these quick examples have helped inspire you a bit to think about your own projects and ideas. Next, I think we move on to, question 2. This is where we want you to tell us about an achievement that you're particularly proud of. For this question, we advise that you choose something different from question 1, if at all possible, to help broaden the scope of your submission. It'll make it more novel and interesting. Go to the next slide, please. This section of the portfolio is your opportunity to express your creativity and independence. To share examples of your drive and determination to get things done, your ability to demonstrate teamwork, working with others, and times you took the lead maybe, and how you learned from your past experience. The reason for our interest in these areas is that being a software engineer involves much more than just technical skills. There are also many interpersonal and professional aspects that are required to work with teammates, to gather requirements from customers and so on. And here are some of the things that would be really good to share with us. Any unique aspects of your submission. Examples of where the task was complex. Any obstacles that you overcame along the way. And it is also important that you choose something that required, independent work and motivation. By this, you mean that you did not simply complete a school project, exactly as directed by your teacher, for example, but maybe you thought of something extra to do, something that interested you, or perhaps you were working on something you thought of completely on your own, at home, or with friends. Now we're onto the submission timeline. Thanks. So compared to last year, we've actually now added an extra 2 weeks to submit in April. So now week 2 in April. This is after feedback last year on overlap with engineering, DCG, and other project submission deadlines for the Leaving Cert. So you have a bit more time there now. And then you can see underneath that we've the application timelines for the late applications and also for change of mind. These are also up on the CAO website. If I go to the next slide, thank you. Yes, now I'm going to quickly go through the actual submission process itself. We've had questions in the past about, okay, I've applied for the CAO and I've received a link then from UL, but what are the next steps? How do I actually send in my portfolio? So basically, when you apply to the CAO then send that information to the University of Limerick, the admissions office, and then they reach out to you. So you'll receive an email from UL Admissions, with a link to a submission site. This is the first time you select LM173, Immersive Software Engineering, on the CAO. Each applicant will only receive this link once. Just to point this out, if you apply for the first submission period and then you don't submit using the link and then you try to resubmit later on, the link will only be sent once, so it will not be reissued a second time. So to make sure when you get the link that you do use the link. International students who apply directly to UL will likewise receive the email with the link. We do advise you to check your spam filters and so on to make sure you do not miss this email. It won't be reissued in later submission rounds, but the admissions team in UL will also send an SMS. You supply a mobile phone number to the CAO as well. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is going to walk you through the steps now of the portal we have for submitting your portfolios. This is what it will look like when you follow the link. You progress through like that. Then you add in your details, your name, your email address, your CAO number. It's very important you put that in, and your mobile phone number. And make sure that the email address is the one you use to sign up to CAO, so that we can confirm your submission. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so this when you install or upload your PDFs, like it gives you the details there, what you need to do. There's a file limit of 10 meg. And yeah, as we say there, that the file must be in PDF format. So it walks you through all the requirements there as well. So you either can drop your files in there or click to upload. If you go to the next slide, we'll see that now. If you click, you get a dialog box, something like this. Then you see, oh, there's my portfolio number 1, and you click on that. And then if you go to the next slide, then you can see now that has been added to the portal. You can see it there. And then you click to the next page. And this is where, that's not a great signature, it's one I did. But what you do is you actually sign that, this is a declaration, an honor pledge that, all the work that you've submitted is your own. And then we've done that. The next step, we move on there, you will actually get confirmation back then, and you should get an email back from us as well saying that you have submitted your portfolio. And then finally, yes, once you've submitted your details, you will receive a confirmation email. This is why it's important you get the email address you put in correct as well, so you make sure you get it back. Like your exams, you only get to submit your portfolio once. You cannot return to update or alter it later on. And once the application window closes, then ISE will begin assessing the portfolios, and admissions in UL then will contact you back with your results. With that, I'll hand you back to everyone else in the team, and thanks very much for listening to me.
Thanks, Ian, and thanks very much to everyone for moving very swiftly through what is a large agenda. We have lots of questions for everyone. I'll call on individuals to ask specific questions. So the first one from Matthew for Ian: are you allowed to put pictures of yourself in question 2 of the portfolio?
Yes, indeed you are. I mean, if you're talking about, say, an achievement in sporting or something, it's actually good to put a picture then, because we really know it is you. So yeah, nicely, no problem there. Very good. We're hoping for no deep fakes there, but happy days for that. Are there different placements each year? Anonymous asks. I'll answer. The answer is absolutely yes, there are. So you could spend your first residency with Provisio. You could send your second residency in Stripe, your third residency in AWS, your fourth residency in Meta, your fifth residency in Viotas, or any other combination thereof. Tiziana, what do you think the points will be this year?
Good question. Next question, so to say. So last year it was 803, and we know that it was a year where there were adjustments in the living certificate grades. This year we don't know whether there is going to be a similar adjustment. So just don't let yourself be, how could I say, put off or whatever by the appearance of high points. Okay. Through the portfolio, you can catch up quite significantly, because it is up to 300 points. That's very, very big.
Great answer. Great answer. The reality is that the point system is set entirely by the number of people who apply, and the points that they get. We don't have any control over that, and so we don't know. But Tiziana is absolutely right. We don't be deterred by the points that were achieved last year with a much smaller number of students. This year we'll have 50 places available. Last year we had 25. So please don't be worried there. Question for Mark from this one for JJ. Is there any area that a portfolio would be more suited? For example, a well-written code portfolio.
Thanks for that, yeah. Well-written code portfolio would be very welcomed, but again, to stress, it's about creativity, innovation. It's about systematic and process within the confines of that. So going from requirements design, then to building the prototype in the case where you're using ICT for question one, evaluation among stakeholders, etc. So that could be a spreadsheet, or it could be a portfolio, or one of the many different examples we've seen this evening.
Great stuff. Thanks, JJ. Next question for, well, we'll give it to you again, JJ. Can I use projects that we're doing in other Leaving Cert subjects if I substantially improve and expand it?
Yeah, if you can tick the box for substantially improving and expanding it, but you must also make it easy for me, the team members grading the portfolio, to be able to clearly identify that. So you have to have maybe a link to prior work, a link to a document that was submitted for the Leaving Cert, and then you describe in your submission to 1,000 words what's the additional value that you have. But if it's not clear to us, we have to be conservative, err on the side of caution, and minimize the marks awarded under that circumstance.
Very good, thanks, JJ. Mark asks, can we use text projects? Absolutely. That's why we came up with text. You can, of course. One for Tiziana. Is this master's the same as any other course? Could you go on and do a PhD after it if you wanted?
So yes, you could go on and do a PhD after if you wanted, because it is a normal accredited course. So you're finishing with a master, that's a master, your grade is your grade. It is not the same as any other course, because also the master is going to be 50% in placements in companies. And so the way you're learning is closer maybe to a master's by research rather than a taught master in a certain sense.
Excellent. That really clear answer. Next two questions are basically repeats of the previous ones. Can we use engineering and DCG projects? Yes, but you have to show us what's new, what's original, what's different. One for Barry now. I think this is a really good question. How can I stand out?
Yeah, I think probably the creativity. I think JJ's emphasized it many times tonight, and Ian as well. Creativity. What, you know, especially as we are approaching a world of AI and machine learning, and people almost trying to differentiate. Have you actually created this code yourself? Have you done? AI cannot come up with unique ideas. So I think if for me, by the way, that's I think creativity is going to be key to everything. Original thought. Separate yourself from the machines, and everyone will be really excited by it.
Great answer, Barry. Really good answer. One for you, Ian. When will emails requesting the submission of our portfolios go out? If we've submitted the course to the CEO already, and from the receipt of the email, how long do we have to submit our portfolios? Really excellent question, Anonymous. Thank you.
Actually, if we can reverse back to that slide, it'd be great, because it's all there. Maybe we went over a bit too quickly, and I need to revisit that. Sorry, Keith. There's the one with the yellow to green arrows going across. Yeah, it's actually all in this. We will be sharing this video afterwards as well, by the way. So you can see here, say for the first one, for example, the link is emailed on week 2 in March, and then you submit by week 2 in April. So in fact, you have a full month to complete that submission.
Cool.
And then the portfolio results then will be emailed back to you in early May. And then you can see the timeline beneath for the late applications and also for the change of mind.
Very clear. Thanks, Ian. Brilliant. Anonymous asks, can you give a rough estimate on how much you'll get paid in the residencies, preferably by hour? If not, could you specify it is above or below minimum wage? We don't specify it. The companies decide how much to pay the residents, the ISE residents. But I can promise you it's absolutely above minimum wage, and in some cases quite substantially above minimum wage. So we don't decide that, but you needn't be worried by that. One for you, JJ. Is this degree accredited by Engineers Ireland? I know most engineering degrees in UL are, but I didn't find this one in the list on their website.
No, it's not accredited by Engineers Ireland. The reason for that is the mathematics that we cover in a software engineering degree, discrete mathematics, linear algebra, statistics and probability. That's sufficient for what students require in the later years 3 and 4, but it's not sufficient for Engineers Ireland. But it's something we keep constantly under review and in discussions with them.
Good stuff. Thanks, JJ. One for you, Tiziana. If I was doing a project on data analysis and the main part of it was a spreadsheet, do you think it would be appropriate to attach a Word document explaining what I found, or should I do that within the 1,000 words?
So you can use some links, also links to your GitHub or whatever, but there is no, how could I say, promise, there is no guarantee that this is going to be looked at, okay? So the point is that the evaluators, they are going to basically form their opinion mostly on the basis of the 1,000 words or the 500 words, etc. If there is additional material, it is a may be consulted, but it must not be consulted.
Thanks, Tatiana. Very clear. Anonymous asks, if you got student accommodation, can that be extended for the duration of this course, considering it runs longer than most? The answer is we're actually working on that right now with Student Academic Administration. Our students start earlier and finish later than everyone else. It's a non-standard course. We're going to have to find a non-standard solution. As of right now, the strict answer is no, but it is something that we're working on actively. One for you, JJ. Is it possible to do this course and still experience the full college experience, go out socializing, participate in Freshers Week, Rag Week, etc.?
I was hoping you would not ask me that question, so thanks. I'll pass. Obviously, when I was a student, I never went out socializing, and I don't know what Rag Week is, etc. Completely alien concepts. All joking aside, it's really important that you have the full student experience. That's part of the the growth process for everybody who attends college. We want you to develop a peer network of friends that will last you a lifetime, and as well, more importantly, from our perspective, from a teaching and learning, when I was an undergraduate or when I was a student, I learned as much from my friends working in labs late at night than I did from the excellent professors that we had in the classrooms during the day. So we want you to have the full experience, but you have to remember that for any undergraduate program, it is hard work, and particularly immersive software engineering, given that it's an accelerated intensive program. You have a master's in 3.5 years instead of the usual 5.
If I may add something, so I know that several of our students are involved also in student societies. There are many in UL, excellent, okay? So this is possible, of course. There is, for example, a free time at lunchtime. There is a studio time that the students can basically allocate to whatever is needed. It can be working in the studio. It can also be just, going, doing other things, so to say. And if there are some holidays, official or unofficial, like, for example, a very early Christmas day this year, okay, that was organized by the students on campus, of course, as soon as we know about that, we respect that. That was very important to the students this year.
And the students and the ISE students got to have their Christmas day. And for those of you who aren't in UL, we're not talking about December the 25th.
No.
So what do you think is the biggest disadvantage of doing immersive software engineering at UL, if any? This one I'm going to ask to Barry. What's the biggest disadvantage?
Wow, that's a little unfair, Stephen.
I know.
I haven't told. Hey, it's hard work, right? If you see hard work as being a disadvantage, I would skip the course and skip the industry. This is an industry where we work hard, we build, and it's extremely mentally challenging. But you learn to enjoy that, and I think that's really important. Actually, back on if you come and do your placement with Provisio, we operate a 4-day work week. So we do believe heavily in people having free time to live. And the reason is because we can prove that when people come back, they're mentally better, they're able to perform better, and I think that's the way the world is going. So I think, yeah, if you're afraid of hard work or challenging yourself mentally, you might struggle on this one.
Yeah, I agree, Barry. I think it's very much it's very much what would be a bug for lots of people is a feature. For us, it is an extended timetable. It's an intensive course. Everyone is going to work hard, but as Tiziana rightly said, people are members of societies, they're members of equine clubs, they go out, they do enjoy themselves, but they're back in the morning to do the job. One for you, JJ. If I got high points in the portfolio in May and I thought I had a good chance of getting into ISE, are there any courses you would recommend doing over the summer to have me well prepared for it?
Yeah, there are, but first I suggest you might think about opportunities to go traveling, maybe to do some work in a completely unrelated sector, whether it might be building or inside in the services area, etc. And I think just to develop your perspectives on life is really good. And then if you still have a little bit of energy and time in the evening, reach out to any one of us that are on the webinar this evening, and we'll send you a few links and pointers towards courses that will give you an introduction into programming.
Very good. Thanks, JJ. Will this webinar be recorded? Absolutely. It'll be out by Friday. Thanks to the wonderful Keith Curley for getting that done. Anonymous asks, this one for you, Ian. I have very little technical experience, but I'm eager to learn. In the last few weeks, I've begun to learn HTML and CSS in my spare time. Well done, you legend. Would a simple portfolio website made using HTML and CSS suffice for the portfolio?
I think that sounds like a great portfolio submission, actually. Yeah, and it would really set you up well for ISE as well, because you soon you get looking at coding, and I think it'd be a great advantage to you in the future.
Very good.
Just make sure you make it novel. That's the thing. You just put yourself into it. Make it yours. Make it yours. Creativity, 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 as Barry says. Anonymous asks, one for you, Tiziana. Would you be able to say when we have time off during the course? Yes, so if you go to the website, there is a schematics that is actually explaining how the semester, so to say, for ISE, or how the teaching periods look like in comparison with the normal semesters. So we are going to publish probably the academic calendar, so to say, of ISE of the next years at some point when we know it exactly. What we can tell you is that it is basically from the moment it starts, which this year it was 3 weeks later because of the delay in the Living Cert. We went up to the end of the exam period, because we didn't have any final exams, so it was all continuous education. There were 3 weeks of holiday over Christmas and the New Year. We came back on the 10th, actually not on the 9th, but on the 10th of January. And we are going to go more or less straight until St. Patrick's Day. We are going to try to have a couple of days before and after St. Patrick's Day also of slack. There is 1 week free before Easter. And there are going to be 2 weeks free between the end of classes on the 2nd of June and the beginning of the residencies, which is on the 19th. Okay, so you can count more or less all together with something like 6-8 weeks of holidays. Okay, so non-teaching time. Okay, non-teaching, no examination time over the year. And it is done on purpose because we actually don't consider you new students to be normal students. We consider you trainees on the job. And so this is basically, okay, the way we see it. And then if you connect with that, that's more or less the kind of holidays you would have in a normal job. And that's why I agree completely with JJ. If you want to just train the feeling of ISE, go and get a full-time job.
Thanks, Tiziana. If Anonymous asks about a question about holidays, I think you've answered that perfectly. In fact, another question, one for you, Ian. For question 2, can I use a certificate achieved in school that I'm proud of? Absolutely. Just make sure also that you kind of explain the backstory behind it and what it means to you and how you got there, and give us some more details so we can understand better about the certificate. Thanks, Ian. One for you, JJ. Do you need to have experience coding skills to keep up with this course?
No, we're very aware that not all schools offer computer science and the Leaving Cert, etc., or that you may not have a coder dojo in your locality. So we don't assume any prior experience, but I would suggest that If you're going to pursue a career in software engineering, or you're thinking about it, then make an informed decision with respect to your CEO selection. Dip your toes in the water, do a lightweight introduction to one of the programming languages, for example, just a few lessons in Python. But again, reach out to anybody on the call here, and that they will forward links to you and further guidance on that.
Thanks, JJ. Another question: how strict is the word count? It's very strict. This is an important part of the assessment process. Please do stick to the word counts. Absolutely vital. Anonymous asks, this is one for you, Ian. If I've currently got ISE second place on my CAO, if I decide in May, when free change of mind reopens, to move to first place, would I have to resubmit the portfolio?
No, you wouldn't. In fact, you would have received the link the first time when you put it in second place, and you would have submitted your portfolio then, and that means you would not get the link reissued to you. So you wouldn't need to worry about that.
Yep. So one shot each time.
Yep, correct.
Very important question.
Once you get the link, you must use it.
Very good. Once you get the link, you must use it. Really important point. That's why, we've been talking about clearing spam filters, etc. We don't want anybody disappointed because of an email or SMS snafu. 2 questions about the links being sent out. When will the link be sent out? It's clearly put there on the slides. How do we access these slides? We'll send out the recording, a link to the recording, to everybody who registered for this on Friday. What percentage of applicants get high points in this portfolio? It's a hard question to answer. JJ, I think it's kind of like, is this a question about what's the median number of points in the portfolios? Is it still something like this?
Yeah, that would be that would be my reading of it. Yeah.
So it's a pretty normal distribution. Out of the 300, the median's about somewhere between 160 and 180. It looks something like that. We don't give away individual marks because that would be a data breach. But it's a normal distribution. One for you, Ian. Is it a good idea to have a comprehensive project with diverse functionalities, Python libraries, etc., to simplify various common tasks in order to reduce repetition and enhance productivity? It sounds like you should be in this course already, or would this be undesirable? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you kind of answered it for me, Stephen. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
As long as you can demonstrate that it's yours.
Yeah, and it's very important to demonstrate that it's yours. Is a typical day 9 to 5? What time are the breaks? It's pretty much 9 to 5. Might start 9:30, might finish 4:30, that kind of thing, and with an hour break for lunch. It's very, very simple. Last year, you had a morning showing some typical portfolios in person. Will you be having this again this year? We haven't got one planned as of right now. We haven't got one planned, but we might return to it. How many places are available this coming year? 50. Can you share the average score of a portfolio last year? Just did. Is the same point applicable to mature students? That's one for you, JJ. I'm assuming we're talking. Yeah. Are the same points?
The process for this is mature students. It's a very different process.
Yes.
You apply through the CAO, but the criteria that are used are very different. So it takes into account experience. You still have to submit a portfolio, etc. But the leaving certificate points don't necessarily play such a strong role in our decision-making process. Yeah.
Very good. An important question for Barry. Do you support Man City?
Supporting Limerick hurling is a prerequisite, and make sure that goes in your portfolio. I think
I think it's important. I know I'm a dub saying this, but it's important that be recognised. What do you think, JJ? Do you support Man City?
No, I don't.
What about you, Ian? Do you support Man City?
No, I don't either.
Okay, so there we have a comprehensive answer to that important question. Thank you very much for putting it in. How many applied last year? That's not something we were allowed to disclose, but demand was very strong.
Stephen, can we just add? Sorry,
yeah,
just to add that.
Is this about the Man City thing?
Yeah. So you can tell a person's age by the team they support, and I'm not saying who I support.
Very good.
No, just to go back to the number of places available, that we're increasing the cohort size. So the intake last year was 25. September this year, the cohort or the intake will be 50.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, JJ. So then, how many weeks are you at UL Learning? How many are you on residency? It's about 50-50. Of the 40 plus weeks or so that you've got, you spend about half of the time across the 4 years in with us and then on residency. How many applied? Yeah, if you received the link in March, Ian, if you received the link in March, do you have until April to submit, or do you have until July?
That's great. We have the slide still here. Yes, you have to submit by week 2 in April if you get it in week 2 in March.
Very good. Oh, this is interesting. One for you, JJ. Can you use a project that was completed in the leaving cycle, but not one that needed to be submitted? For example, the alts in computer science for the leaving cert.
Sorry, Stephen. This is the AI proficiency at coding question, is it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's very topical at this point in time. My own viewpoint on it is that it's overhyped in the context of software engineering. I do think that it will lift some of the more routine work from the shoulders of the software developers, but there's still a need for creativity. And there's a huge way to go before any of the, for example, ChatGPT would be able to produce code at the level of a good software developer.
Very good. Thanks, JJ. Can you go abroad for placements? You can, absolutely. So we've got companies like Watershed. They're in Ontario and Canada. We have companies that are in California. If you go with a placement in Meta, they're in London and so forth. And we are actively expanding the number of companies that we will be able to access. Hopefully, we'll have far more European destinations for you. What is a typical ISE day like, JJ?
You're in the studio with your colleagues, with your peers. There are some classes, but effectively we want to be centered around the concept of an a large project. You're working in a team. You have some guidance on, mathematics, computer science, and programming needed to complete that. You're doing it under expert tuition, and it should be fun, enjoyable, and a great sense of satisfaction. But as has been previously said, I think this goes for all degree programs. It does require hard work, commitment, and long hours.
Very good. Thanks, JJ. You actually answered this question precisely already. Given AI's proficiency in coding, will it threaten the future software job market significantly? Actually, one for you, Barry. What do you think? As a company specializing in AI, are you getting rid of programmers?
No, but we are making them more efficient, and it depends. I think JJ answered it very well. It depends on what type of coding. So, for example, one of the guys that just walked out behind me there a little while ago, he probably walked out. He co-programs with AI all the time, and they check up on each other. But the AI certainly doesn't do his job for him, so it makes him more efficient at his job. It certainly doesn't work for then an awful lot of the roles, and it sure as hell needs a good understanding and a lot of prompting and all that fun stuff. And I think that's the way it will grow, right? So I think it's more of an opportunity than it. I think coding will be a lot less boring in the future because of AI. Because anything, and we've all done, there's a lot of copy and pasting and stuff like that you could be doing on a day-to-day basis. It takes away that, and allows you to focus on the actual problem solving and going at it. So it's an opportunity more than a threat, I would say.
Very good. Thanks, Barry. What would the minimum points be to achieve in the leaving certificate in order to almost guarantee a spot in this course? Like we said last year, the minimum points to get into the course was 803, combination of 625 for the CAO and 300 for the portfolio. So students, you don't need to be a genius to figure out that the students need to have very high points in order to get in. But as we said previously, that was for 25 spots. Now there are 50, and as Tatiana said, there were changes to the grading in the leaving cert last year. There may not be this year, so those are two big variables. that mean that the only good answer to that question is we don't know. How can you access a recording of this webinar? You'll get an email to the link. Is ISE accredited by which body in Ireland? So ISE is actually accredited by the University of Limerick. So the University of Limerick, under the Universities Act in 1997, is able to accredit courses. So we're part of the European Credit Transfer System and everything like that. So when you get your MSc, you're getting it from the University of Limerick, and you know, it's not sort of you know, Dallas Upstairs Medical Night School or whatever. It's a completely different it's a completely different space. As Jay just said, we're not accredited by Engineers Ireland, but we will keep that under review. One for you, Ian. For the first question, would it be better to focus on the technical or design aspects of the project?
Oh, you're not going to like the answer here, but you should really focus on both the technical and the design aspects. I guess the challenge in a way with your 1,000 words is, you know, how to put your message across as, you know, concisely as you can.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Up the dubs. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sorry, Keith. Can I go live a second, please, Keith? Yeah, did you plant that question?
Yeah.
Sorry, just for the audience.
Stephen is I had nothing to do with that question whatsoever. So
very good, very good. Do ISE help in getting accommodation or your residencies, or do you have to do that on your own? You have to do that on your own. The part of the process of acquiring residencies, etc., that's down to the individual students. Next question: how are placements decided or distributed? Is everyone guaranteed a residency? Everyone is guaranteed a residency in every cohort. They're decided and distributed by a competitive system whereby the companies compete for the students. So from Provisio has to put amazing projects in front of our students in order that the students choose Provisio, and then Provisio will interview students, and then if they decide they're a match, then off they go. And in fact, today, the students found out about their placements, and I believe it was only yesterday, isn't that right, Barry, that you found out who you were placed with?
Yeah, but of course we're awesome, so we got our first choice every time.
Exactly. Good answer. Good answer. So how long do work placements usually last? Anywhere between 10 weeks and 14 weeks. Over time. 6 in a row. Yeah, sure. Okay. So when do you start placements? You start placements in June of this year. So literally at the end of your first year, the summer term of your first year. And there you go. Is accommodation provided for placements abroad? No. And the average points in portfolio we've already talked about. Okay, so we are 60 questions. We're actually 64 questions in. I think we've kind of exhausted everyone. Is there anything that we haven't said at this point, JJ?
No, but I'd just like to repeat the message, and with numerous questions repeatedly on leveraging existing Leaving Certificate project submissions. If it's difficult for us or to distinguish the prior work, i.e. what you submitted for that Leaving Cert project versus what's new, what's novel, that added value that you've done yourself, that extra mile you've gone, well, then we can't give you marks. So make it easy for us to give you the marks by making it, you know, clear and distinguishing your new work from what was done for a Leaving Cert subject.
Very good. Thanks, JJ. Ian, any final remarks from you?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with what JJ is saying. You need to think also, if you're trying to be, you know, novel, different, stand out from everyone else, as Barry is mentioning, if you go and you submit the same project as another 20 people have done for, say, their Leaving Cert engineering, it's more difficult to stand out. So maybe that might help you to think about maybe either doing a lot more extra work or maybe even doing something quite different as well. If, you know, just think about yourself, how can I stand out more?
Yeah.
Very good. There's one last question here before we go. Can you use a project that was completed in the leaving cycle, but not one that needed to be submitted? For example, the alts in computer science for the Leaving Cert. I think we did answer this question. Yeah, so the answer is yes, you can. But yeah, okay. And final word to you, Barry. Is there anything you feel
Look,
that we didn't cover?
sorry, I'll re-emphasize what I said earlier. I think it's important not to think of the portfolio as being something just purely about getting into ISE, but that it becomes the part of you going forward, becomes part of your career, part of you as a person going forward, and how you show that to the world. And back to what the guy said, the Leaving Cert has never struck me as the most creative thing, and therefore if something is in the Leaving Cert, this is your chance to break out of that, right, and do something a bit more original and creative. So I would certainly encourage people to take it in a new direction and actually enjoy the portfolio. It's a really cool thing to have. Be proud of it, show it to other people, see what they, and not people like that will always tell you you're great, but people who might give you some good feedback. It's a really important part of, pruning your portfolio going forward, is that ability to be self-critical and to drive on with that. So that'd be my one, build something that you'd actually like to be involved in building and that you'd like to see somebody else had built.
Fantastic. Okay, well, folks, I think all that we can do now is thank you very much for your time and your attention and your forbearance. Sorry about the technical snafu at the start. You could blame The Economist for not pushing the button. All the techie people were able to do the techie things. It's just basically me. So apologies for that. Let me thank you all for your time and attention. It's not a small thing to spend a Wednesday evening listening to this course. We're all excited about it. We all think it's fantastic, and we're really proud of it. But it's also the case that you have busy lives. So I want to thank Rob Heaton from Stripe. I really want to thank Barry Lunn from Provisio for taking the time out of his busy schedule. He's working there late tonight. So thank you so much for taking the time, Barry, and for all of your support. Really, genuinely, it's the small things and the big things that add up to this course being successful. Thanks to our course director JJ Collins, to Dr. Ian O'Keefe, and to mighty Keith Curley. I'm tempted to finish this by saying up the dubs, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it because it would just be
stick to the football. Stick to the football.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you all very much for your time and attention. Have a lovely evening, and please do keep in touch with us if you have any questions. We're open to giving you your answers. So take care and good night.
Good night, everybody.